fact, it's the beginning of chapter 3, which connects it to the title, in a sense. 2 weeks later, Howard won a scholarship to the Slade. I did not. I went to work full-time for my father. Scala's had become the most famous ice cream in West London, and my dad's parlour was the next best thing to an American drugstore. All American films seem to have soda fountains with stainless steel counters, mirrored walls, jukeboxes, and above all, wisecracking guys in smart white coats serving up sundaes and sodas in long, thin glasses to hordes of pretty bobby soxers. I could be just like those soda jerks right here in North End Road. I began to grow my schoolboy haircut into a fully fledged Tony Curtis, which was only slightly bastardized by the addition of a mild duck's arse at the back. To go with this new image, I commissioned Mr. Tobias of 200 North End Road, a tailor respected by the discerning Fulham teddy boys, to make me my first suit. The dimensions of a novice teddy boy's suit were usually governed by the novice teddy boy's parents. If his parents were lenient and shameless, Tobias would have a free hand to build one of his most spectacular efforts. Shoulder pads, constructed to project 18 inches outwards from each side of the neck, would be covered by a suitable material, black for the hard boys, duck egg blue if you were into Johnny Ray, or a wonderful shiny silver herringbone cloth, as favoured by the Walham Green gang. The collar of the coat was critical. A narrow strip of velvet had to curve gently just below the DA hairline. The ideal suit tapered from the extended shoulders to the trouser turn-ups, 1.5 inches in depth and 7 inches wide. The jacket was then cut to the fingertips, the fingertip drape. If your parents allowed it, it had flat pockets, 1 breast, 1 ticket, and 2 for the hands to go into when lounging around the British home stalls. In Fulham, the buttons on a Ted suit were special. Seven of them ran from the tiny lapel down the front of the jacket, the last one level with the cuff. Tobias excelled himself. My first silver herringbone was brilliant. I picked it up on my tea break on a Saturday afternoon. It was a hot July day. The queue for ice cream stretched down the market for 50 yards. I worked away for the rest of the afternoon, and in the early evening, as the market closed down, the cleaners moved in and the persistent queue slowly vanished. All I could think of was my first night out on an official teddy boy with the Walham Green gang. I was going to be late for my initiation. As soon as the close sign went up, the family began counting of the cash. I bribed my brother to help Dad, Uncle Joe, and Cousin Julio count the money, which on a summer Saturday would fill a dozen or so foot square biscuit tins with halfpennies, pennies, threepenny bits, sixpences, shillings, 2 bobs, and half-crowns. I ran upstairs. I had no time for a bath, so still smelling of vanilla essence, I changed into a white shirt with a flyaway collar and a bootlace tie with a cow skull toggle. Its red glass eyes were shining at me as I undid the box and took out my silver suit. I adjusted the braces of my trousers and put on the yellow socks. Then, from under the bed, I took out the Dulcis box that contained my blinding new pair of Jeff Chandlers. Inch-thick crepe, crinkly soles, topped with black suede and finely decorated with thin strips of black patent leather cleverly woven into the patterns around the seams. Finally, I climbed into the jacket, twisting my skinny frame to adjust the gigantic Mr. Tobias' shoulders. After posing for a while in the bathroom mirror and adding a final squirt of Brill cream, a liberal dash of Old Spice, and 1 final comb of the hair, I stood transformed. The DA was flying. The suit was magnificent. My one problem was how to get out of the flat. Over the past few weeks, teddy boys had stabbed several people to death on Clapham Common and staged numerous gang fights all over London. They were about as popular with parents as head lice. The only exit was through the shop where my dad, my brother, Uncle Joe, and Cousin Julio sat counting money at one of the tables. I could hear the clink as I stood on the iron fire escape that ran down the back of the building. I opened the door and walked with the swagger of a fully fledged Ted towards the exit. My crepes crept across the terrazzo floor of the cafe. My reflection in the pink mirrors, enhanced by the neon ceiling lighting, was a vision I dreamed about. I looked the business. As I drew level with the concentrating money counters, one of them looked up. It was my dad. Where the fuck do you think you're going looking like that? Get upstairs and take it all off now. I made an instant decision. The traction of crepe soles on terrazzo flooring was brilliant. I began my sprint to the door. Dad jumped up, giving the counting table a hefty thump with his knee. As I fled through the door of the shop, all I could hear was the tinkling cascade of hard-earned coins bouncing and rolling behind me. A teddy boy running is a strange sight. The shoes weighed a pound apiece. The thick soles slapped the pavement, compressed, expanded, and propelled me forward as if I were running on a trampoline. I did not stop to look back. I did, however, catch my reflection in numerous shop windows. Teddy boys were really narcissistic. I mean Maasai warrior, Beau Brummel, Bertie Wooster narcissistic. Slowing down as I reached the Fulham bars, I ducked into the doorway of radio rentals to rearrange the outfit. Mr. Tobias's shoulder pads were not designed for sprinting. I combed the Tony Curtis, taking special care with the DA, and made my way to the corner of Munster Road and the Star Cafe. This place was the original Greasy Spoon, so crummy that the Greek owner actually welcomed the Teds, something that my dad did not do at Scala's. I sauntered in and ordered a cup of tea and a cheese roll. The chieftain of the Fulham Teds went by the name of Corky, as he bore a striking resemblance to the cat of that name in the Dandy comic. Corky was 6 feet tall, as thin as a pin, and decked out in a magnificent black toby. His very prominent Adam's apple bobbed above a plastic silver skull toggle from which dangled a black ribbon tie. He was probably 20 to my 16. Next to Corky lounged Dum Dum, a ginger mute reputed to be the hardest Ted in Fulham. I wandered over to the shelf they were leaning on and put down my tea and roll and checked myself in the Bovril mirror. Nice whistle, Scala. It's a Toby, innit? Yes, I replied proudly, sliding my hands into the jacket pockets. Dum Dum sucked in a lot of air and made a string of sounds deep down in the back of his throat. He then produced a cutthroat razor from his inside pocket and neatly cut the bottom button off my jacket. He thinks your coat's got too many buttons, Corky said, sipping his tea. Yeah, I thought so too, said I, hoping that this was as violent as my initiation would get. It gets better and better and better. The stories are endless and they're all fantastic. And now it's my enormous pleasure and great thrill to introduce to everybody yet again Mim Scala on this great day.